Imagine that for a moment. A question so wide, so old, that the mind doesn't rush to answer it. It simply drifts. And this is one of them. Why does consciousness exist at all? Picture yourself settling into a soft space, a place where thoughts approach slowly, like clouds passing over calm water. You don't need to solve anything, only notice how the question feels. This gentle wondering, this subtle awareness that you are aware. Now imagine a spark, not a bright or sudden one, but a small, steady glow, somewhere deep inside the brain. Countless tiny reactions turn into experience. A chemical shift becomes a feeling. A flicker of electricity becomes a memory. And somehow, all these tiny, simple processes combine into the sense of I am. No one truly knows why. No scientist can point to the exact place where consciousness begins. It's a collection of parts, but the whole is something different, something softer, something that perceives. Some theories say consciousness is merely the brain observing itself. Others suggest it is a helpful illusion, a story the mind creates to stay organized. And still others whisper that awareness might be a universal property, like gravity or space or time, woven into the fabric of reality itself. But none of these explanations feel complete. None of them settle the question. They just offer directions, possibilities, starting points for a journey inward. As you listen, let your attention drift to the idea that consciousness could simply be the universe noticing its own existence, a quiet reflection, a way for matter to observe itself, a mirror placed gently inside the mind of every living thing. And whether that idea is true or not, it has a calming quality, because it reminds you that your awareness doesn't need to be justified. It doesn't need a reason to exist. It is already here, arriving with each breath, appearing and dissolving like waves on a shore. Some things fade so softly, you only notice their absence. A thought is one of them. It arrives quietly, shapes your awareness for a moment, and then slips away, as if it never existed at all. And so the question settles in. Where does a thought go when it disappears? Picture yourself resting gently, as if floating just above your own mind. Below you, ideas rise and fall, like tiny lanterns drifting upward in the evening air, each one glowing for a moment, warm and distinct, then dimming, returning to a place you cannot quite see. They appear, and then they are gone. But nothing simply vanishes. Not really. Neuroscience explains part of the process. A thought is a temporary pattern of electrical activity, a brief alignment of neurons, forming a shape your mind can recognize. When the pattern stops, the thought dissolves. The brain returns to stillness, waiting for the next spark, the next gentle connection. But even this explanation feels incomplete. We still don't know where the experience of the thought goes. We only know the mechanism that once held it. Some scientists say a vanished thought returns to a vast mental archive, not as a complete memory, but as a trace, a soft imprint your mind might use again someday. Others suggest that a thought simply ceases, like a wave that rises from the ocean and folds back into it. Still the same water, just not the same shape. Imagine this for a moment, your mind as a wide, quiet landscape. Thoughts appear the way wind sweeps through tall grass. A movement, a ripple, a momentary bending of the world. And then the wind moves on, and the grass stands still once more. The disappearance of a thought isn't a loss. It's a return, a gentle transition from form into formlessness. It doesn't fall into darkness or drift into emptiness. It simply goes back into the quiet reservoir of the mind, waiting for another moment, another connection, another breath. Some patterns are so precise they feel like whispers from something deeper. Mathematics is one of them. Numbers, ratios, curves, invisible symmetries, appearing everywhere, from falling leaves to distant galaxies. And so the gentle question emerges, why does the universe follow mathematical rules at all? Imagine yourself floating in a quiet space just beyond thought, a place where lines, shapes, and rhythms drift like soft light in the dark. You don't need to solve anything. Only notice how naturally the universe settles into patterns. Waves repeat. Planets trace their paths. Light bends in exact, predictable ways. All of it unfolding with a kind of quiet precision. Scientists often speak of mathematics as the language of nature, but no one truly knows why nature speaks it so fluently. Why the spiral of a shell echoes the spiral of a galaxy. Why the growth of a leaf mirrors the branching of neurons. Why random motion still obeys statistics, as if guided by unseen order. Some believe mathematics is simply a tool the human mind invented, a way to describe what we see, but others suggest something more mysterious, that mathematics wasn't invented at all, but discovered, found like fossils buried beneath the surface of the world, waiting patiently to be uncovered. Picture a river. It flows freely, yet always follows the same physical laws. Gravity shapes its path, friction slows its movement, and the water forms curves that can be described by elegant equations. Those equations existed long before anyone wrote them down. The river didn't choose them, it simply revealed them. And maybe the universe is like that river. Flowing, unfolding, revealing patterns that were always there, patterns woven into space, into matter, into time itself, patterns we can sense, but not fully understand, at least not yet. Let your mind rest on this thought. Mathematics might be the quiet structure beneath reality, a kind of blueprint that everything follows without knowing it. Not rigid or cold, but simple, elegant, inevitable. Every beginning has a before, except the beginning of time. It's a question that sits quietly at the edge of human understanding, like a horizon we can see but never touch. What actually started time? Imagine yourself relaxing into a soft, expansive darkness. Not an empty darkness, but a peaceful one, like the sky just before dawn. In this stillness, there is no past, no future, just a gentle sense of being, a sense of existence without direction. Scientists tell us that time, as we understand it, began with the Big Bang, a moment when space expanded, light emerged, and the clock of the cosmos started ticking. But what existed before that moment? The mind tries to reach for an answer and finds only silence. Some theories say there was no before, that time itself is a property of the universe, and when the universe wasn't yet unfolded, time had nowhere to flow, like a river that doesn't exist until the valley forms. Others imagine cycles, universes expanding and contracting endlessly, each collapse giving birth to another beginning. In that view, time bends into a circle, with no true start, no ultimate end, just a rhythm. Picture that for a moment. Time not as a line, but as a gentle loop, turning, resting, turning again, a slow cosmic breath. And then there are quieter, stranger ideas, that time might be an illusion created by consciousness, that everything exists all at once, and the mind moves through it like a beam of light scanning a photograph. In this view, beginnings and endings are simply ways we organize experience, not the structure of reality itself. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a still lake. The surface is perfectly calm. Then a single drop falls, just one, and ripples begin to spread outward, not because the lake wanted them, but because movement creates time, a shift, a change, a difference. Time may have begun with the universe's first ripple, or with the first relationship between anything and anything else. Or perhaps time was always here, waiting quietly, until something arrived to notice its passing. The mind becomes a storyteller when you're no longer awake to guide it. Dreams rise from that mysterious boundary between consciousness and rest. They drift in without permission, shape themselves into scenes, and carry you through experiences you never chose. So the question unfolds gently. Why do we dream in stories we don't control? Imagine yourself sinking into a warm, quiet darkness, the kind you feel when you're almost asleep, when thoughts loosen and begin to stretch into imagery. In that state, your mind is still active, but the part that organizes, structures, and decides has grown very soft, almost absent. During dreaming, especially in the stage called REM sleep, the brain becomes incredibly creative. It combines memories, sensations, and emotions in ways that don't follow daytime rules. Yet the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for logic and control, goes almost silent. What remains active are the imaginative, emotional, and sensory centers, the parts that know how to invent but not how to supervise. Picture a theater where the director has quietly stepped out, but the actors keep performing anyway. They improvise, they wander, they explore old scenes, forgotten ones, ones that never existed at all. The play continues, and your dreaming mind simply follows wherever it leads. Some scientists believe dreams serve a purpose, processing memories, sorting emotions, rehearsing possible futures, or simply cleaning the brain of unnecessary clutter. But none of these explanations fully capture the strangeness of dreaming without control, the drifting, the unpredictability, the surreal logic that makes sense only while you're inside it. Imagine floating down a gentle river at night. You're carried by the current, not steering, not resisting. Shapes appear along the shore, some familiar, some entirely new. But the river decides the path. Dreaming feels like that. A journey led by the deeper parts of the mind, while the part that says, "I choose," is resting completely. And there's something peaceful about it, about letting the mind speak in its own language, without boundaries, without direction. A story told by the quietest parts of you. Inside the quiet darkness of the skull, a spark becomes a world. That is the soft mystery at the center of every moment you've ever lived. A gentle, impossible question. How does the brain turn electricity into experience? Imagine a single neuron resting in silence. Then, with the faintest shift in charge, it sends a signal forward. An electrical pulse so small, so delicate, that billions of them could fire in a moment and you'd never hear a sound. Yet from these tiny sparks come colors, faces, memories, the warmth of a blanket, the sound of a voice, the feeling of being alive. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine those signals as tiny lanterns, lighting up briefly one after another, spreading through a vast forest of branches. Each flicker moves along invisible pathways, crossing small gaps called synapses, where chemistry and electricity blend. A soft handshake between worlds. Neuroscience can describe the mechanism. It can show how neurons fire, how chemicals carry messages, how networks form patterns. But the real question remains untouched. How does a pattern of electrical activity become the taste of tea, or the memory of someone laughing, or the comfort of your own breathing? The truth is gently humbling. No one knows. Some theories say the brain creates a model of reality, a seamless simulation built from sensory input and past experience. Others suggest consciousness arises from complexity, that once enough signals interconnect, a new phenomenon emerges, like a melody emerging from individual notes. But none of these ideas explain the transformation itself. How does electricity, which is cold and impersonal, become the warmth of emotion? How does chemistry, which has no meaning, give rise to meaning? Imagine looking at a painting. On its own, it's only pigment arranged in patterns. But inside your mind, those patterns bloom into landscapes, stories, feelings. The magic doesn't lie in the paint. It lies in the experience created within you, a private, internal universe. Perhaps the brain isn't just a machine producing thoughts. Perhaps it is more like a lens, a gentle one, turning invisible signals into something vivid and personal. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of space. And somehow, that space changes depending on where you stand. A quiet room, a quiet forest, a quiet city, all hold silence differently, as if each place has its own version of stillness. So the gentle question arises, why does silence feel different in each place? Imagine yourself stepping into a large, empty hall. The air is cool, open, spacious. Your breath seems louder, your footsteps echo softly, as if the silence is stretched thin across the walls. Then picture yourself in a small bedroom at night. The silence there feels warmer, closer, like a blanket wrapped around you. Same silence, yet not the same at all. Scientists might tell you that silence isn't truly silent. It's shaped by tiny background sounds, airflow, temperature, distance, the way materials absorb or reflect vibrations. Wood, stone, glass, fabric, each one softens or sharpens quiet in a different way. But the experience of silence goes deeper than physics. Some silences are external. Others are internal. Imagine standing alone under a sky full of stars. The world around you is calm, but inside you might feel an even deeper hush, a widening quiet, as if your thoughts are spreading out to match the open space. Now imagine a library. People around you are still, but the silence feels concentrated, as if everyone is holding their breath together. A shared stillness, a collective pause. Silence takes on the shape of the environment, but also the shape of your mind in that moment. A forest silence feels alive. You can sense the subtle movements, leaves shifting, branches settling, the faint rustle of unseen creatures. A mountaintop silence feels vast, echoing with distance. A bedroom silence feels intimate, surrounded by the soft rhythm of your own breathing. And perhaps that's the real reason silence feels different everywhere, because silence reveals whatever is already there, both around you and within you. You live inside yourself every moment, yet no one knows where the you actually is. Not the body, not the brain, not a single place you can point to. And so the gentle question unfolds. Where exactly is the self located? Imagine sitting quietly with your eyes closed. You feel present, aware, somewhere behind the thoughts, somewhere beneath the sensations. You can sense yourself without seeing yourself, as if the you that experiences your life is resting in a soft, hidden space. But where? Picture the brain as a vast landscape, billions of cells sparking and settling, connecting and releasing, a shimmering network of activity. Some regions process vision, others store memories, others control movement. But none of them alone feel like you. And even when scientists trace the flow of signals, the sense of self doesn't appear in any one location. It's not a structure. It's not a room you can walk into. It's something softer, a pattern, a presence, a gentle continuity woven through experience. Some researchers suggest the self is a narrative, a constantly updated story your brain tells to keep your life feeling coherent, a thread stitching moments together. But the thread isn't the self either. It's only the record of it. Others believe the self emerges from integration, the way the brain binds together sensations, emotions, memories into a single viewpoint. Not here or there, but in the meeting point of everything. Imagine a candle flame. It looks solid, located in one spot. But if you touch it, there's nothing to hold on to. It's not an object, it's a process, a moment-by-moment expression of heat, air, fuel, light. The self might be like that flame, real in experience, yet impossible to grasp physically. Now imagine standing before a calm lake. Your reflection appears on the surface, recognizable, familiar. But the reflection isn't the lake. It isn't the water. It isn't the sky. It's the meeting point of all three, a phenomenon created by relationship. The self may be that reflection, a meeting point between body, brain, memory, perception, an awareness arising from connection, not from a single place inside you. Memories feel solid, yet they are made of something you can't hold. They shape who you are, what you love, what you fear, and how you understand the world. And yet, if you tried to touch a memory, it would slip through your fingers like light. So the quiet question drifts in. What is memory made of? Imagine opening an old drawer and finding small objects tucked neatly inside. A folded photograph, a worn ticket, a pressed leaf. Each one carries a moment from the past, yet none of them contain the memory itself. The real memory lives somewhere else, somewhere unseen, somewhere delicate. Now picture your brain as a forest at dusk. Billions of branches stretching in every direction. Between them, tiny sparks move like fireflies, flickering softly across pathways formed over years. A memory begins with one of those sparks, a pattern of activity created by experience. But what remains afterward is not the spark itself. It's the rearrangement of the branches. Scientists call this synaptic change. When you learn, when you remember, connections between neurons shift. Some strengthen, some weaken, some sprout entirely new pathways. A memory is not stored in a single place, but woven across many. A pattern rather than a thing. A relationship rather than a thing. Imagine dipping your hand into a pool of water. You move your fingers and create ripples. When you pull your hand away, the water looks still again, but it is not exactly the same. Some molecules have shifted, some patterns have changed. Memory is like that, a quiet residue left by experience. And yet, the mystery deepens, because while we understand the mechanics, we don't fully understand the experience of remembering. The warmth of a childhood afternoon, the sound of a long-forgotten laugh, the feeling of a place you haven't visited in decades. Those lived sensations have no physical shape, no clear location. They arise from patterns, but feel like worlds. Memories also change each time you recall them. They soften around the edges, absorb new details, lose others. A memory is not a photograph. It is more like a painting, revised gently with each viewing. The present moment feels like a point, yet it is really a construction. You say, "this instant," as if it is sharp, singular, absolute. But the brain doesn't live in instants. It gathers, blends, and smooths time into something that feels whole. So the soft question arises, how does the brain create the feeling of now? Imagine listening to a single note from a piano. You hear it instantly, but the brain actually needs a small window of time to collect the sound, process it, and give it meaning. What you experience as now is not a single point, but a tiny span, a smooth envelope of moments. Scientists call this the integration window. It's the brain's quiet trick, taking slices of time, merging them, and presenting them as one unified moment. Your awareness lags behind reality by fractions of a second, but you never notice the delay. The mind edits and arranges experience like a gentle cinematographer, cutting and blending frames into seamless continuity. Imagine walking through a foggy landscape. You can only see what's close to you, yet the world feels complete. Your brain does something similar. It can only process tiny fragments of time at once, yet it gives you the illusion of a continuous present. Now picture the mind as a quiet lake. Every experience, a sound, a touch, a thought, is like a small pebble falling into the water. Ripples spread, overlap, combine. The surface doesn't record each pebble separately. It blends the motions together. Your sense of now is those ripples, the gentle merging of events that otherwise would be disconnected. This smoothing of time is essential. Without it, the world would feel choppy and fragmented, a series of disjointed flashes. Instead, the brain gives you a unified experience, a soft continuity you can rest inside. The feeling of now is not a location in time. It is a mental creation, a story told by your awareness, moment after moment, breath after breath. A moment arrives, lives briefly, and then slips away. But it doesn't simply vanish. It fades so quietly that you rarely notice its departure. One breath dissolves into the next. One heartbeat blends into the following one. And so the gentle question arises: what happens to a moment after it passes? Imagine holding a small bubble in the palm of your hand. It shimmers, delicate and complete. You watch it, feel its presence, and then, without sound, it bursts. The bubble is gone, yet the space it occupied feels subtly changed, as if the air remembers the shape, even after the shape is no longer there. Moments behave the same way. Science tells us a moment is never stored intact. Instead, the brain captures fragments, a color, a sensation, a thought, a feeling, and weaves them into a soft, impressionistic memory. Not the moment itself, but an echo of it. Picture a moment as a small ripple moving across a calm pond. When the ripple reaches the edge, it doesn't disappear instantly. It blends into the surface, becoming part of a larger pattern that's always shifting, always rearranging. Moments pass, but they leave traces, tiny adjustments in the mind, subtle shifts in emotion, new connections among your memories. Each one shapes you in ways too gentle to notice, like dust settling quietly on a windowsill. Some moments form clear memories, others sink too softly to notice, but none are wasted. Your mind absorbs them, folds them into its countless layers, not as recordings, but as influence. A passing moment may alter the way you see a color, or the way a certain scent makes you feel, or the way you understand someone's voice. Changes so small you would never attribute them to a single instant. Now imagine time as a long, slow snowfall. Each flake lands and disappears into the growing blanket of white. You never see the individual snowflakes again, but they remain, quietly contributing to the landscape beneath your feet. Moments layer the same way. They accumulate gently, softening edges, shaping perspective, building the person you become. So what happens to a moment after it passes? It settles. It blends. It becomes part of the quiet foundation inside you. Not gone, not preserved, but transformed into something settled enough to hold you without being seen. Life began with something so small, yet so impossible. A single cell, a tiny container of chemicals surrounded by a delicate membrane holding the first flicker of self-sustaining existence. But where did that first cell come from? What sparked the beginning of life's long journey? Imagine yourself drifting back billions of years, long before plants, animals, oceans, or even stable continents. The earth is young, warm, restless. Volcanoes breathe heat into the air, lightning cracks across dark skies, and the oceans simmer with minerals and energy. A world in motion, raw, unshaped, full of potential. In this early environment, simple molecules floated freely, bumping, connecting, separating, over and over again. Most interactions were meaningless, but some, by chance, created patterns. Chemistry exploring its own possibilities. Scientists call this the primordial soup, but the name is gentler than the reality. It was a restless broth of energy and elements, a place where nature experimented endlessly. Picture it now, tiny fragments of matter drifting in warm water, joining into slightly more complex structures, then breaking apart again. A long, slow dance, a patient search. For life to begin, something remarkable had to happen. Molecules needed to form not only stable structures, but structures that could copy themselves. This is the quiet heart of the mystery. One idea suggests that RNA, a simple cousin of DNA, formed first. Able to store information and to replicate, it could act as both memory and machinery, a self-copying molecule floating in ancient water. Another idea imagines simple compartments forming first, tiny droplets of fat-like molecules that naturally assemble into bubbles. Within those bubbles, reactions could accumulate and stabilize, protected from the chaotic outside world. A small room for chemistry to grow more organized. Some scientists believe both happened together, a self-copying molecule inside a protective bubble, the earliest cell-like structure. Not intentional, not planned, just the slow, patient consequence of countless possibilities playing out across millions of years. And yet, even with all these theories, we still don't know exactly how life began. Not because the mystery is frightening, but because it is subtle, a process too gradual, too delicate to leave a clear fossil behind. Imagine a single spark catching in a dark forest, growing slowly, spreading gently, until its warmth fills the entire landscape. Life was that spark, a quiet beginning that needed only one successful moment to change everything. Sleep is more than rest. It is a quiet work the body and mind do when you are not watching. Imagine closing your eyes and stepping into a dim room. The lamp you left on does not burn brighter because you look away. Instead, the room rearranges itself quietly, tasks finishing while you breathe. That is sleep, a deliberate, necessary folding of the world, happening in the softness of unawareness. Picture yourself floating backward into slow time. Your limbs relax like pebbles settling to the bottom of a deep pool. Inside, the brain moves through stages as gentle as tides. There are times of quiet, times of vivid motion, times when memory takes a single thread and weaves it through the night. You don't direct this weaving, you allow it, and in that permission, something vital occurs. Scientists describe many helpful functions of sleep: cleanup crews sweeping away cellular debris, memory files being reorganized and archived, emotional ink smoothed so yesterday's sharp edges dull by morning. During deep sleep, discarded proteins are cleared, synapses trimmed, the brain's chemistry rebalanced. During dreaming sleep, fragments of experience are stitched into narrative, rehearsal for days you have yet to meet. But these are descriptions of processes, not the feeling of why sleep matters. Imagine a busy workshop that closes at dusk. While the workers rest, machines cool, tools are sharpened, orders are sorted, blueprints adjusted for the next day. If the workshop never closed, mistakes accumulate, instruments dull, systems clog. Sleep is the workshop's night shift, invisible but essential. There's also a softer purpose. Sleep gives the mind distance, a small exile from the stream of choosing and reacting. With that distance comes perspective. Problems you circled by day often resolve themselves by morning, not because you forced them, but because the mind had a chance to rearrange, to let narrower ideas loosen, to see alternatives without urgency. The universe builds patterns, and then lets them drift apart. From galaxies to weather, from thought patterns to the movements of rivers, you can feel this dual nature everywhere. A quiet leaning toward structure and an equally gentle surrender into disorder. So the question unfolds with a slow exhale. Why does the universe prefer order, yet create chaos? Imagine watching a snowflake form. It begins as a simple crystal, then branches outward with intricate symmetry. So delicate, so precise, every angle repeating in perfect harmony. This is order, nature arranging itself into something stable, predictable. Now imagine that same snowflake falling. A gust of wind catches it, twists it, tumbles it. Its path becomes impossible to track. Not because the snowflake changes, but because the world around it becomes chaotic, full of countless small forces interacting at once. Order and chaos are not opposites. They are partners in the same dance. Scientists call this interplay entropy. the tendency for systems to move from tidy arrangements toward more scattered ones over time. Yet many processes create order spontaneously. Atoms bonding into molecules, stars forming from dust, cells organizing into tissues. Life itself is a long defiance of disorder, held together by careful balance. Imagine a river flowing downhill. The water seeks a path, cutting through rock, shaping smooth curves and meanders. The river finds a form. This is order. But the details of the flow, each tiny swirl, change moment by moment, never repeating exactly. This is chaos. The universe prefers order because order is stable. Atoms settle into arrangements that require less energy. Planets follow orbits that conserve motion. Your own heartbeat finds rhythm to keep you alive. But the universe generates chaos because chaos allows possibility, variation, creativity, transformation. Without it, nothing new could ever form. No stars, no ecosystems, no unexpected turns in a life. Picture a candle flame. It has shape, a steady glow, a recognizable form. But within that shape, the flame flickers constantly. Tiny movements, unpredictable. Small turbulences giving it life. Order holds the flame together. Chaos makes it dance. Perhaps the universe isn't choosing between the two. Perhaps it needs both, structure to anchor reality and chaos to let reality evolve. Some emotions arrive without names, like shadows moving across the mind. They don't fit neatly into words like joy, anger, or fear. They drift in quietly, blend into each other, and leave you sensing something real, yet impossible to explain. So the question settles softly. Why do we feel emotions we can't describe? Imagine standing on a beach at dusk. You watch the horizon shift from gold to violet. Nothing specific happens, yet something moves inside you. A tenderness, a longing, a calm ache. But if someone asked you to name it, you would struggle, not because the emotion isn't real, but because language is smaller than experience. Emotions are ancient, older than speech, older than structured thought. They rise from deep regions of the brain, areas designed for sensation, memory, and survival. Long before humans had words, we had feelings, raw, fluid, complex. Language came later, a thin net trying to catch something vast. Picture emotions as colors swirling in water. Some are bright and distinct, easy to point to and name. Others swirl in between, shades that don't belong to any single category. You can see them, you can feel them, but they resist being boxed into a single word. Many unnamed emotions come from combinations, a hint of nostalgia mixed with relief, curiosity tinged with unease, gratitude softened by sadness. Your brain blends them into states that words were never designed to capture. And there are emotions shaped by memory, moments your body remembers even when your mind cannot. A scent, a texture, a tone of voice can stir something wordless, a feeling formed long before you could describe anything. Imagine your inner world as a quiet landscape. Some paths are well marked with signs, joy, frustration, excitement. Others wind into places untouched by language, mossy, soft, half-lit regions you can walk through, but never map. These spaces hold emotions made not of categories, but of lived experience. And perhaps you don't need to name them. Perhaps these unnamed feelings are reminders that life is richer than vocabulary, more textured than the words we use to describe it. The visible universe is only a small island in a much larger sea. When you look up at the night sky, you're seeing a light that has traveled billions of years just to touch your eyes. But even that vast distance is only a fraction of what actually exists. And so the quiet question emerges: how large is the universe beyond what we can see? Imagine standing at the edge of a peaceful lake. Fog covers the far shore, so you can only see the water near your feet, the gentle ripples, the soft reflection of the sky. But you know the lake continues beyond the fog. You can feel its presence even if your eyes cannot reach it. The universe is like that lake, but the fog is made of time. Light has a speed, and because it takes time to travel, we can only see as far as light has had time to reach us. About 46 billion light-years in every direction. A visible bubble, a cosmic horizon. But beyond that horizon, beyond the farthest light, beyond the oldest galaxies, there may be more universe stretching calmly into distances we will never measure. Some scientists believe the universe is simply much larger than the part we can observe. Thousands, millions, maybe an infinite number of times larger. Others imagine regions beyond our sight that look nothing like what we know. Different arrangements of matter, different shapes of space, per even different physical laws. A continuation that feels familiar, yet entirely unreachable. Picture the universe as a vast quilt. You are lying on a single square, warm, soft, detailed. But the quilt spreads outward, square after square, some patterned, some plain, some you will never touch, yet still part of the same fabric. There is also the possibility of a multiverse, countless universes existing side by side, each its own bubble, each with its own story. Not because nature is complicated, but because nature does not mind abundance. But even without multiverses or exotic theories, the known universe alone is already far larger than anything the mind can truly hold. Beyond our view lies more space, more time, more quiet expansion, all stretching gently into the unknown. Life could have taken countless paths, yet it chose this one. Every creature, every leaf, every breath you've ever taken comes from a long line of branching possibilities. And as you look at the world around you, the symmetry of animals, the structure of trees, the intelligence of the mind, the gentle question arises: why did life evolve the way it did? Imagine the earliest forms of life, floating in warm, shallow water. There were no eyes, no legs, no thoughts, just simple shapes, cells learning how to copy themselves, how to use the energy around them, how to hold on a little longer. As these tiny beings encountered challenges, cold, heat, scarcity, competition, some survived by chance, and others faded quietly away. Generation after generation, patterns that helped survival were repeated. Shapes that didn't work disappeared, like footprints washed by a tide. Evolution doesn't plan, it simply responds. Picture a long river flowing around stones. The water doesn't choose its route, it follows the simplest path available. Life is similar. It follows paths that work, paths shaped by environment, by resources, by luck. Why 2 eyes instead of 3? Because 2 were enough. Why upright walking? Because it freed hands for tools. Why intelligence at all? Because awareness offered an advantage, not out of intention, but out of quiet practicality. Imagine nature as a gentle sculptor, not deliberate, not rushed. Every chisel mark is a small mutation, a tiny change in a long lineage. Most changes do nothing. Some cause harm. But occasionally a change helps. More strength, better camouflage, a sharper memory, a more coordinated body. These small successes accumulate, layer upon layer, until complex forms emerge. Life evolves the way it does because the world shapes it. Climate, oxygen levels, predators, food sources. Each acts as a soft hand guiding possibilities. Even the shape of your own body reflects ancient oceans, old forests, long extinct creatures that shaped the conditions for today. And yet, there is mystery too. Why did consciousness appear? Why language? Why art, laughter, music? These were not required for survival, yet they emerged as if life was not only adapting, but expressing. Life could have taken countless paths, yet it chose this one. Every creature, every leaf, every breath you've ever taken comes from a long line of branching possibilities. And as you look at the world around you, the symmetry of animals, the structure of trees, the intelligence of the mind, the gentle question arises, why did life evolve the way it did? Imagine the earliest forms of life, floating in warm, shallow water. There were no eyes, no legs, no thoughts, just simple shapes, cells learning how to copy themselves, how to use the energy around them, how to hold on a little longer. As these tiny beings encountered challenges, cold, heat, scarcity, competition, some survived by chance, and others faded quietly away. Generation after generation, patterns that helped survival were repeated. Shapes that didn't work disappeared, like footprints washed by a tide. Evolution doesn't plan, it simply responds. Picture a long river flowing around stones. The water doesn't choose its route, it follows the simplest path available. Life is similar. It follows paths that work, paths shaped by environment, by resources, by luck. Why 2 eyes instead of 3? Because 2 were enough. Why upright walking? Because it freed hands for tools. Why intelligence at all? Because awareness offered an advantage, not out of intention, but out of quiet practicality. Imagine nature as a gentle sculptor, not deliberate, not rushed. Every chisel mark is a small mutation, a tiny change in a long lineage. Most changes do nothing. Some cause harm, but occasionally a change helps. More strength, better camouflage, a sharper memory, a more coordinated body. These small successes accumulate, layer upon layer, until complex forms emerge. Life evolves the way it does because the world shapes it. Climate, oxygen levels, predators, food sources, each acts as a soft hand guiding possibilities. Even the shape of your own body reflects ancient oceans, old forests, long extinct creatures that shaped the conditions for today. And yet, there is mystery too. Why did consciousness appear? Why language? Why art, laughter, music? These were not required for survival, yet they emerged as if life was not only adapting, but expressing. The universe is shaped by something we cannot see, yet it quietly holds everything together. Look up at the night sky, the stars, the galaxies, the soft scattering of light. All of that is only a small fraction of what exists. Most of the universe is made of something invisible, silent, untouchable. And so the gentle question drifts into awareness. What is dark matter hiding from us? Imagine standing in a vast, dim room with only a few lanterns flickering in the distance. You can't see the walls, the floor, or the space around you, but the lanterns behave in ways that reveal a hidden structure. They swirl, cluster, and move as if an unseen hand is guiding them. Galaxies behave that way. They spin so fast that by all logic, their stars should fly apart like sand tossed into the wind. Yet they don't. They hold their shape, gravitationally anchored by something we cannot detect directly. That invisible mass, that quiet scaffolding, is what scientists call dark matter. Picture a spider web at dawn. You may not see the silk itself, but the dewdrops cling to it, revealing its outline. Dark matter is the web, and galaxies are the dewdrops, patterns that expose an invisible architecture beneath space. We don't know what dark matter is made of. It might be particles that pass through everything without touching, like whispers sliding through walls. It might be a new kind of matter, a cousin to the atoms you're made of, but living in a parallel quietness. Or it may be something deeper, a sign that gravity behaves differently on the largest scales of the cosmos. Imagine dark matter as gentle hands cupped around galaxies, holding them in shape, giving them weight, letting the night sky become what it is. Without it, there would be no clusters, no spirals, no cosmic structure, just scattered light dissolving into emptiness. And perhaps the most mysterious part is that dark matter does not glow, does not absorb, does not react. It simply exists, like a silent participant in a story that only reveals its presence through influence. What is dark matter hiding from us? Possibly a deeper understanding of gravity. Possibly a new family of particles. Possibly an entire aspect of reality our senses were never designed to perceive. You feel as if you live in the present, yet your awareness is always a little behind. Every sound you hear, every touch you sense, every thought that enters your mind has already happened by the time you become aware of it. It's a gentle delay, so small you never notice it. And so the quiet question arises: why does conscious awareness arrive late? Imagine watching a sunrise through a window. The light seems immediate, brightening the room at the very moment it appears. But sunlight takes time to travel, time to reach your eyes, time for your eyes to signal your brain, and time for your brain to build the image you see. Awareness is not instantaneous. It is constructed. The mind works like a soft editor. Signals arrive from the senses, not all at once, but in streams: touch, sound, sight, thought, emotion. The brain gathers them, organizes them, smooths them into a single moment you call now. Picture it as a slow open shutter, a tiny window of time, a few tenths of a second, collected, interpreted, and only then delivered into consciousness. The delay keeps your world continuous. Without it, experience would feel choppy, fragmented, like watching reality flicker frame by frame. Scientists call this the integration period, a short span in which the brain waits for enough information to build a coherent picture. Consciousness needs that pause to make sense. Imagine listening to a melody. If each note arrived alone, without context, music would not exist, only isolated tones. Your mind waits, just briefly, to understand the rhythm. Consciousness works the same way. It gathers the raw sounds of life and turns them into experience. There is another reason awareness lags. Your unconscious mind needs time to predict. Before you even know what's happening, your brain is estimating the next moment, where a sound will come from, how a hand will move, what a sentence might mean. By the time consciousness arrives, your mind has already done its careful groundwork. Picture a lantern lighting a path you have already walked. Awareness isn't the leader of the mind. It is the narrator, describing the path just after the steps have been taken. This delay isn't a flaw. It's a gentle safeguard, a way of creating stability out of constant motion, a way of turning chaos into continuity. You don't experience the world as it is. You experience the world as your mind allows. Every color you see, every sound you hear, every sensation that reaches you is shaped, filtered, softened, and interpreted long before you become aware of it. So the question drifts gently into focus. How can we be sure reality isn't filtered? Imagine looking through a window with a very faint tint. You might never notice its color, yet everything you see is subtly altered by it. Reality works the same way, not changed by glass, but by perception. Your senses take in far more information than consciousness can hold. Millions of signals flow in every second: temperature, pressure, movement, shadows shifting across your skin, the constant sound of breath, the faint hum of electricity in the walls. If you experienced all of it at once, your mind would drown in sensation. So the brain filters, quietly, efficiently, gently. Picture a librarian in a vast archive. She receives thousands of books at once, but she can only place a tiny stack on the reading table. The rest remain on shelves, present, real, but unseen. Your brain works in this same quiet way. Most visual information never reaches awareness. Most sounds are discarded. Most sensations fade before you notice them. Even thoughts arise filtered, the conscious mind receiving only what the deeper mind has already processed. This isn't a flaw. It is survival. It is calm. It is focus. But the result is simple. You never see the raw world. You see an interpretation of it. Imagine now a gentle spotlight on a stage. The room is much larger than the light reveals, but your eyes follow only the bright circle. Reality surrounds you, yet your awareness illuminates only a small piece. Perception is also shaped by memory, what you've seen before, what you expect, what your culture names, what your experiences taught you to notice and to ignore. Two people can look at the same moment and see entirely different worlds. So how can we be sure reality isn't filtered? We can't. In fact, we can be sure that it is. But this filtered view is not deception. It is clarity, a gentle refinement that lets you navigate a vast, overwhelming world with calm efficiency. Beauty feels instinctive, yet it is shaped by something quiet and ancient inside you. When you call something beautiful, a face, a sound, a landscape, a moment, you feel the recognition instantly, as if the mind has whispered, "Yes, this." But what creates that whisper? What makes something beautiful to the brain? Imagine walking through a calm forest path. Light filters through the leaves, scattering soft patterns on the ground. The air carries the gentle scent of earth and growth. Nothing dramatic happens, yet you feel a subtle lift inside, a settling, a sense of rightness. Beauty often begins with harmony. Your brain favors patterns that echo the structures of nature, symmetry, gentle curves, balanced proportions. This preference is not taught. It is inherited from millions of years, spent reading the environment for safety, health, and opportunity. Picture a shell spiraling outward, each turn following the same ratio, or a flower unfolding with petals arranged in a quiet, repeating order. These patterns feel comforting because they mirror the rhythms the brain evolved within. But beauty is not only order, it is also surprise. A melody is beautiful not because every note is predictable, but because it balances familiarity with settled variation. The brain loves that blend, a structure it recognizes, a twist it didn't expect, a calm meeting of known and new. Emotion shapes beauty as well. A face becomes beautiful when expression softens it. A place grows beautiful when memory binds itself to it. An object becomes beautiful because someone you loved once held it. Mimage the mind as a quiet room with many windows. Some let light in from your senses, others from your memories. others from your hopes and longings. Beauty appears when all those windows align for a moment, when perception, feeling, and meaning overlap gently. And then there is presence. Beauty reveals itself when the mind is still enough to notice. A reflection in a puddle, the warmth of a candle flame, the hush of morning air. Sometimes beauty is nothing more than attention meeting simplicity. So what makes something beautiful to the brain? A blend of harmony and novelty, emotion and memory, biology and meaning, all drifting together into a single shape the mind recognizes as calming, restoring, worth lingering on. Your senses feel like truth, yet they often deliver only interpretations. You rely on them without thinking. Sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. They form the foundation of your reality, the quiet scaffolding beneath every decision. But senses can be fooled, misled, or incomplete. So the soft question emerges: why do we trust our senses even when they're wrong? Imagine standing on a shore, watching a long stick half submerged in water. To your eyes, the stick appears bent, as if broken cleanly at the surface. But you know it isn't. Light simply bends when it enters water, and your eyes interpret the distortion as shape. Still, your instinct is to believe the image you see. Your senses evolved not to deliver perfect accuracy, but to offer the fastest, most useful understanding for survival. Picture a quiet forest long ago, a faint movement in the grass. Is it wind or a predator? Your senses are tuned to act quickly, to favor caution, to interpret with bias toward safety. Accuracy came second, speed came first, and that tuning never left you. The brain also fills in gaps automatically. Your eyes don't capture the world continuously. They jump in small, rapid movements, collecting scattered snapshots. Your mind stitches those snapshots together into a smooth flow, like a gentle film playing in the background. You experience the result, not the raw fragments. This stitching feels natural, so you trust it. Now imagine listening to a familiar voice. Even if parts of the sound blur or distort, your brain fills the gaps with expectations, patterns, memories of how that person speaks. The senses give partial input, the brain supplies the rest. Trust forms because the sensory system almost always works well enough. When it errs, the corrections are usually quick and harmless. A second glance, a shift in lighting, a touch to verify shape. Most of the time, the world reinforces what your senses told you. And then there is comfort. Trusting your senses creates stability, a feeling that the world is knowable, consistent, safe to navigate. Doubt requires energy. Certainty feels restful. So why do we trust our senses even when they're wrong? Because they are the closest we ever get to immediate experience, our first language with the world, older than thought, older than words. Loneliness is an emotion, yet the body reacts as if it were an injury. It tightens the chest, slows the breath, softens energy, and settles like a weight behind the ribs. So the gentle question arises: why does loneliness feel physical? Imagine yourself walking through a quiet room. The air is still. The world around you is unchanged, yet something inside feels slightly dimmer, as if a small lamp has been lowered. This shift is not imagined. The body responds to loneliness as though something vital is missing. Human beings evolved to live in groups. For early humans, connection meant safety, shared warmth, shared alertness, shared protection. To be separated from others meant vulnerability, exposure, risk. So the body treats loneliness as a signal of danger. Picture your nervous system like a gentle alarm system. When you feel disconnected, the alarm doesn't shout, it hums quietly. Stress hormones rise just enough to make the body feel slower, heavier, more alert to absence, not as punishment, but as encouragement, a soft push back toward connection. The brain also processes social pain in the same regions it uses for physical pain. If someone rejects you, ignores you, or you feel unseen, the brain interprets it much like a physical wound. This is why loneliness can ache. Now imagine a hand resting on your shoulder, a simple, warm gesture. The body releases oxytocin, soothes the nervous system, lowers stress, and restores a sense of belonging. Humans are wired for that contact, that recognition. Loneliness is simply the absence of a signal we evolved to expect. There is another layer, the rhythm of presence. Over a lifetime, your body becomes accustomed to the sounds, movements, and emotional resonance of other people. When they're gone, your nervous system searches, listens, waits. That searching feels physical because it is, your body reaching out in its own quiet way. Loneliness also slows the mind to conserve resources, a gentle protective response passed down through generations. You might feel more tired, more sensitive, more inward. The body is trying to keep you safe until connection returns. The universe could have remained simple, yet it didn't. It could have been only clouds of gas, only drifting particles, only endless emptiness. But instead, complexity emerged. Atoms combined, molecules formed, stars organized, life appeared, and minds began to wonder about it all. So the gentle question arises, why does the universe allow complexity at all? Imagine a calm early universe filled with nothing but smooth, silent energy. No stars, no shapes, no contrast. Just a quiet uniformity. But uniformity is unstable. Like a still pond reacting to the slightest breeze, even tiny disturbances begin to ripple outward. Those tiny ripples, slight variations in density, became the seeds of structure. Picture scattering grains of sand across a table. Most of them land randomly, but some clusters form simply because chance allows them to. The universe behaves similarly. Where matter gathered just a little more densely, gravity amplified the difference, pulling more matter inward, forming stars, galaxies, and eventually entire clusters of galaxies. Complexity begins whenever simplicity becomes uneven. Now imagine molecules drifting through warm, young oceans. Some bump together in ways that hold, some fall apart. A few rare combinations produce stability, patterns that persist. These stable patterns build on themselves, layer by layer, until something astonishing appears: self-organization. The universe doesn't push for complexity. It simply permits it. And once permitted, complexity grows. Energy flows also play a gentle role. Where energy moves from hot to cold, from intense to calm, systems self-organize to channel that flow more efficiently. Stars regulate fusion. Planets balance heat. Life adapts to use energy in increasingly intricate ways. Complexity is not an exception. It is a natural response to a universe that expands, cools, and allows variety to accumulate. Imagine a single snowflake. It begins as a simple droplet, but as it falls, temperature and humidity shift around it in delicate patterns. The snowflake adopts these variations, growing into a unique, elaborate crystal. All from simple ingredients given the space to interact. The universe allows complexity for the same reason a snowflake does. Conditions permit it, energy shapes it, time refines it. And perhaps there is something more subtle. Complexity brings awareness. It allows the universe to observe itself through conscious minds, to reflect on its own nature through your quiet wondering. The universe behaves according to rules, yet no one knows who or what wrote them. Gravity pulls. Light travels. Particles follow patterns so precise they can be predicted across billions of years. But before stars, before space, before time had its first moment, where did these rules come from? Imagine standing in a quiet, empty room. No objects, no motion, no sound, just stillness. If something suddenly appeared inside that stillness, a ball rolling across the floor, you would still ask, why does it roll? Why does it slow? Why does it fall when dropped? The rules shape the behavior, even in emptiness. Physics works the same way. Even before a universe existed, the underlying principles were already waiting to be expressed. Some scientists suggest the rules of physics arise naturally from the simplest possible mathematical structures, like patterns emerging in frost on a window or ripples forming on a pond, not designed, but inevitable. Imagine drawing a long, straight line in the sand. Even without thinking, you already know its properties. It has length. It has direction. It can be measured. Certain truths follow from the shape. The universe may be similar, its laws arising because any consistent universe must follow them. Other theories imagine a deeper origin. Perhaps countless universes exist, each with its own rules. Some collapse instantly. Some expand too fast for structure to form. But a few, like ours, have laws that allow complexity. Stars, life, consciousness. In this view, we live in a universe where the rules simply happened to support stability. Now, picture a vast sheet of fabric. Stretch it, and patterns appear. Straight lines, curved surfaces, natural symmetries. The rules of physics may be the patterns of that cosmic fabric, expressing themselves whenever space and time unfold. And there is an even softer, subtler idea. Perhaps the laws of physics did not exist at all before the universe began. Perhaps they crystallized as the universe expanded, settling into place like the rules of a game forming as the first moves are played. In this view, the laws are not imposed, they are discovered through the universe's own unfolding. So, where did the rules of physics come from? Maybe they are mathematical truths. Maybe they are cosmic selections. Maybe they are emergent patterns. Or maybe they are simply the universe expressing what it has always been. You feel like the author of your actions, even though your choices form long before you notice them. Every moment, you reach for a glass, choose a word, turn your head, move a hand. It all feels deliberate, as if a quiet I sits inside you, deciding. But science shows something softer, stranger. The brain begins preparing actions before consciousness becomes aware. So the question drifts in gently. Why do we sense we have free will? Imagine placing your hand on your chest and feeling your heartbeat. You don't choose the rhythm. It simply happens. Breath, too, rises and falls on its own. Yet you can influence it with gentle intention. Your choices work this way, part automatic, part guided, woven together so seamlessly that you believe you control every thread. Deep inside the brain, unconscious systems evaluate options instantly. Patterns from past experience, memories, predictions, sensory signals. They prepare an action, a subtle movement, a shift in attention, a quiet intention before the conscious mind becomes aware. By the time you notice a decision, most of the groundwork is already done. Yet consciousness still feels like the decision maker. Picture the mind as a calm river. Underneath the surface, currents swirl, directing the flow. On the surface, you see only the gentle motion of water gliding forward. The flow was shaped below, but the surface feels like the river's true expression. Consciousness is that surface, a polished layer presenting choices that were shaped deeper down. Still, there is a reason you feel free. The sense of free will guides behavior, encourages responsibility, helps you navigate a complex world. It gives unity to decisions that would otherwise feel scattered, a feeling of authorship that allows life to feel coherent, not chaotic. And there is another layer. Even if choices begin unconsciously, consciousness can redirect them, refine them, pause them. You can stop a habit, rewrite a tendency, choose silence over reaction. You are not the creator of impulses, but you are the editor, the sculptor, the one who shapes the final form. Imagine a potter's wheel spinning on its own. The clay turns whether you intervene or not, but your hands give it meaning. Perhaps free will is not absolute control, but gentle influence, the capacity to guide the flow rather than create it.